Hello everyone, it's a nice day today. Today I'm not gonna be playing my scheduled stream because I had a lot to do today, but I am going to be doing a reaction video to Nintendo erasing in its history, but specifically I'm going to be reacting to Asmongold TV's video. I have not watched it through yet, but I would like to see what he has to say about the ROM universe and see what I have to say in response to what he has, I guess, opinionated on this topic. So I guess let's go ahead and get into it and see what we got.
The war on ROMs. Nintendo's erasing its history. Well, they're not erasing it. You just have to go to the vintage store and buy it for $330 used.
In the summer of 2018, the best-selling console in June of that year wasn't the Nintendo Switch or the Sony PlayStation 4, it was the NES Classic, a miniature.
I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago when me and my friend Eric stood in line to buy this.
Well, I will say I'm not probably as old as Asmongold, but I will say that I was just a little shit probably at that point in time. Or I mean, I wouldn't say I was born in the 80s, but I was still a little kid when I had even first heard of the NES console, but them coming out with the uh classic like retro remake for it, I don't know about that one because I mean, wouldn't that be considered a emulation console? I mean, if Nintendo is like so against this, right? Why would they make a console that can technically emulate things, right? So I want to hear more what they got to
Every
say.
single other person at 8 in the morning at the GameStop that we went to buy it's right over there behind me. Every single one of them was 30 years old. And you could see half of them, it was a rainy day too. And like half of them had like their wives or girlfriends in the car, like
I can kind of feel that, but um, I kind of experienced something like that when I was getting like my first PS3. You know, you'd see people out there in the parking lot and like all their like wives or whatever were like not too happy that their husband was getting a new console, this, that, and the third. But like I don't know. I mean, let's see what more he has to say though regarding this emulation thing because like like um like for example, like why is Nintendo really against the ROM thing? I mean, like especially with games that are probably 30 plus years old and things like that. I mean, Nintendo probably won't be making a profit on 30-year-old games, I would assume, unless they re-release them. So like I don't really know. Let's see what he has to say.
meanwhile, the guy was in there talking to the other guys, like, "Oh yeah, dude. So you gonna play this one? You remember this game, bro? I used to be so good at this one. Oh god, this is gonna be so good." Yeah, it was so fucking funny. I was there. It was awesome. In the 40s for
I
The
50.
version of the
I
Almost.
NES
wish I
that
could have
cost
been there.
$60 and
I
came with
wish.
30 classic
Yep.
NES titles. And it sold well. So
Well, actually, I
well
had the
that
Super Nintendo
Nintendo
one.
underestimated
Yeah.
the demand. The NES Classic was frequently sold out, and resellers took advantage of the FOMO from those who weren't able to get one. The NES
Funny thing is we actually have one of these somewhere in storage, but my like for example, my stepfather still prefers to play the original NES because that I believe the one that the retro model they got, like the remake, I don't believe it had the Tetris game that he likes to play on there. So like that's a whole lot of reasons why it's in storage right now. I mean, it had some good titles on it, but I would say it was a lot of like unheard of titles were on that console, especially like I mean, there were a few like very well known titles on there, but like everything like that probably he would have grew up with is was not on there at all. Um, so like you know. I mean, I don't know like why, Nintendo wouldn't expect for something like this to blow up because it's basically like, the emulation console without having to do all the work through a computer. So you kind of got all that, but the only thing is something I was never sure of is were you able to actually like upload games to that console, like if you had like the ROM for it, for example, or are you not able to do that with that retro remake? Like, I don't know, but let's see. Um,
NES Classic underneath the covers is nothing more than a low-powered ARM
Yeah.
device that runs an in-house Nintendo
Which,
developed
by the way, this is what we all want. Nintendo, if you're listening, we want this. We want you to sell us nostalgia boxes that have all the games that we grew up playing.
exactly. I completely agree with you, Asmongold. I really I agree with that because like just for example, even in this era, they had better looking consoles even. Like 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 just take a good gander at that, And I mean, like even games from back then had like it feels like everything was hand done. Like all the art, everything. Like and it probably was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but like today's stuff is probably more than likely AI generated, and they probably would never meet up to what they did back in the day. So, honestly, like even looking at this computer chip here, that kind of makes me think of another topic. Like, for example, like I do know that a lot of companies have stepped away from using cartridges and things like that. Like, but my thing is I feel like a cartridge would be a much more efficient way to, you know, output the data to the console so that you can, then play it. I mean, there might be some downsides, but like, I mean, you just take a look at like 30-year-old game cartridges and things that have been beat up, scuffed up, things like that, right? And you could probably pop them in and they'd still work. But like if you had a CD, for example, and it was beat up, scuffed up, you know, more than likely it ain't gonna work right, if at all. So, you know, I guess let's just see what more he has to say then.
We want to give you money. We want to do this. Like last time you asked for money for this, we gave it to you. Let us do it again. Stop making us buy a fucking Game Boy Advance game for $170. Nobody's gonna do it. We're gonna fucking
I feel that. I feel that. Well, who wants to spend $170 on just any game in general, for that matter? Like, I mean, it's kind of like another video I watched from Asmongold a little bit earlier today. Like, he was talking about how a lot of video games and stuff like have all this pay to win stuff and this, that, and a third, and all these little in-game purchases. See, my thing is I miss the days when games were fully complete when they first came out, and like those days are gone. Like online games are going to take over, and that's what's going to happen. Like eventually, I mean, we'll probably only see online games in the next few generations of consoles. I mean, that's what I expect. So yeah, I mean,
pirate it. That's just what's gonna happen. And you get mad about it, go ahead. But like if you sell it to us for $30, well, I'll give you $30. It's better than zero, right? Come on. What are you doing?
emulator and ROMs. Nintendo would follow this up with the Super NES Classic, which was just as successful, and just like any other mini console at the time,
I'll go get it.
if I could find mine, I'd go grab mine too, honestly. But like everybody already knows what they look like. But I mean, like, of course, you see on the screen there are some like well-known titles on displayed on that screen there in his video that he's reviewing himself. Like now, these consoles are not gonna have everything that you probably grew up with. So why do people emulate? Well, I mean, because emulation can be better in a lot of factors. But I mean, I don't really know how things work, but like if a company doesn't have the copyrights for something that's over 30 years old or more, do they even have technically the right to say what happens with that item if they don't own the rights to that game anymore? Or if they do, why hasn't anything been done about it?
Yeah, I was talking to Eric the other day, and man, bro, like, it's right here. We bought this on the day it came out. We
I
got
re-
the box.
I
He knows
remember
what it is.
when
Of course
those
I
came
do.
out. I
It's
remember
got
when
all
those
the
came out.
games, everything like that. Yep. Ah,
They come
there it is.
pre-installed
Yep.
with games.
Have you played it? I did. I played it. We went over to his house. I even recorded the whole day that we had together. Like him picking me up, us driving over there. We hung out at his house all day. We played the games. I recorded the whole thing. I just never put it on YouTube.
It would be quickly hacked to run just about any emulator and ROM that you wanted. In July 18 of the same year as the
See that kind of answers my question from earlier. So this kind of confirms that people are able to upload official games to this console, or vice versa, are able to use, for example, what he's got sitting in that video. They could literally use like a ROM loaded cartridge. For example, you can get them like all over the internet. I believe they're called EverDrives, but they're like pretty pricey, depending on what one you get and what console it's for. Now, that's probably where, Nintendo is seeing some problems, especially there, and then on the PC side of it as well, because a lot of people have been doing it for years on PC. But I mean, honestly, like especially with the Nintendo 64, for example, like the programming on that was originally designed off of a old PC software, a 64-bit software. So like a lot of games will run probably just fine on that console up to 64-bit. So like I'm pretty sure if you had like the correct cartridge to put in like Sega games or something, into the slot on this thing, right? I'm pretty sure that you could probably play them if I mean, it probably would boot up. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I mean, something like that might exist, you know.
NES Classic, Nintendo would file a lawsuit against the operator of a popular console ROM site known as loveroms.com.
Yeah.
According to Nintendo, the sites are among the most notorious online hubs for pirated games. And just 3 days
Wouldn't
later,
be the case if you let us buy them. Just let us buy them, Nintendo. Come on.
LoveRoms was shut down.
Hold on,
Emmy
because like
Paradise
I get his point. Like, because I stated this earlier, I would rather not play the ROMs. Because like, there's a lot of games that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, right? And you can't even find them, right? Like really rare games, for example. Like, I want to be able and go buy I guess, for example, a remastered version of like Zelda Master Quest or Ocarina of Time Master Quest Edition, or like a remastered, like fully remastered version of Donkey Kong 64, for example. Like, I don't want to like pay for a monthly subscription, if that makes sense. I would rather just outright buy the game and play it off of like the Switch, for example. But I do see like where this thing's coming from. Like I agree with a lot that he's saying so far about this topic. So I want to see what
out
else
of
he has
fear
to
of being
say.
targeted by Nintendo, also ceased providing ROMs on their website.
I think this is a Gabe situation where he was totally right about piracy being a service issue. Steam provides such a great service with like the cloud storage that I want to use Steam and I appreciate Steam.
Steam is good.
Spotify got me to stop pirating music because it just provides a much better service that's more reliable.
Well,
Nintendo.
Spotify is like the goat.
All I want is I want to be able to buy the games for a small fee, especially the old games, or buy them in a bundle or something like that, and then be able to access them or download them locally to a Game Boy, a Nintendo Switch, or a home console. That's all I
Exactly.
want.
See,
If you
I
do
feel that.
that,
I feel that.
everybody will give you money.
I feel that. Yeah, exactly.
Problem solved.
I completely agree with him on this.
It's
I completely
literally
agree.
I want that for the cloud storage. I don't want to have to play a ROM because like there could be problems with it or something like that. I
Fact,
want the
eh,
Nintendo quality, and I
here,
would pay money for that.
like, but before I continue the video, right? Like, now playing ROMs, like you're gonna have a lot of issues with like graphics plugins and all that kind of stuff, audio plugins. I mean, there's going to be plugins for different drivers and stuff that you're going to need, and this, that, and the third. If you don't got them, like there's so much behind running emulators, especially on a PC or laptop. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you might fuck something up. So like, if Nintendo actually gave us like the opportunity to go out here and buy everything, like again on a newer platform, for example, then I would be all down for that, you know.
That and I can't do it. It's so stupid. Clown storage.
July of 2019, Nintendo went scorched earth on another popular ROM sharing site known as ROM
It's like
Universe,
Nintendo hates their customers.
stating the
There's a
company
communication
alleges
problem.
ROM Universe is built largely on brazen and mass scale infringement. It was shut down shortly after.
That's true. I think that a lot of people use ROMs to copyright infringe the games. That's true, but also like think about why that's happening. That's happening because people want to play them. So
Well,
figure out a way to get people to play them.
we'll see. My thing is for example, like if you already own a copy of that game, right? Um, for example, if you have the physical copy and also have the ROM, I don't think it should be considered that because if it's not being distributed out to other people or being sold for profit, then I don't really see it as a major problem. But I mean, of course, to the law, that's how it's going to be. You know, when they start cracking down on that stuff, even the emulators that I like to stream will eventually be taken down forever. And and I only use those because things are so darn expensive, and you can't find like ROMs or not ROMs games that were made like 30 years ago brand new. Like you can't. And if you do, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot of money for them. So like my thing is Nintendo wouldn't be having this problem if they would just re-release, re-release, re-release. Now, I would say the problem would probably still persist, you know, with people that don't want to rebuy things because there's people out there that just will do that. Now, me, I actually have a physical console, that I like to play my stuff on. Now, I do run emulators too, but granted, they suck. I would rather get a capture card, and stream this straight off the game straight off of this console here. So, yeah, let's see.
Because like really, like if you're buying a one of these old games from like a vintage shop, Nintendo doesn't make any of that money. The shop does. So like Nintendo's not really losing out on a sale because they're not providing the product to be sold in the
Well,
first place.
we'll see. This kind of brings the point that I had earlier. See, with games that are so old, if they don't own the copyrights to them anymore, there is literally nothing that they can do, especially if the company has went out of business and there ain't no one to claim any copyrights on that game, for example. Like we all know, like the big games and the big titles are probably still copyrighted by Nintendo more than likely. So that's like why you see like the Donkey Kong like games and all that stuff still on the Switch store, like from the Super Nintendo era and the original Nintendo and all that stuff. Like all the stuff that they've put up there, it's stuff that they still have the rights to. Everything else that hasn't popped up on that store, I would say they probably either do still have rights to, or they just haven't put them on there yet, or the other games that were released on those older consoles, they probably don't own rights to anymore, or the game developers are out of business, more than likely. But let's continue and see what more he has to say.
And fast forward to today, Vim's Lair is the latest in a string of high profile ROM sites that have been a target of Nintendo and their quest to eradicate
It's been
illegal
going on for
ROMs
a
and
while.
piracy. In the case of Vim's Lair, Nintendo, along with Sega, Lego, and a group of companies who formed the ESA, was responsible.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to be very clear that
Ooh,
Nintendo
this is
does have
the one.
every right to protect what's theirs, and ROM sites do indeed host.
Well, there's two different things. Does Nintendo have the right to do it? The answer is yes. Would it be better if Nintendo could see the perspective of customers and figure out why it's happening and provide an alternative that we could pay for as well? Yes. So it's like, yes, I understand Nintendo has to do this, but I wish Nintendo understood why people are doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna completely agree with you there because, like, no, I don't like I said, I don't think anybody would be doing it as much if they would, do these things, that like if they heard it from people's perspectives on why people were doing it, then maybe they would change their minds on whether or not to re-release stuff. So, let's see what else he
Because
has
if
to
they
say.
solve it's like you're solving a symptom and not the disease. The disease is the fact that there's no distribution for these games that's good. The symptom is piracy. Piracy would go down by like 90%, even from where it's at now, if you could just buy them and play them on a cloud device or on your Nintendo Switch and have a Nintendo account the same as Steam. Like, I would immediately swap over to that.
Yeah, I would do that too, honestly. Like a lot of the ROMs and emulators I had downloaded way, way, way long time ago when I was still a kid. So like these things were probably downloaded back in the early 2000s. So like this is before all this stuff started happening and before companies started cracking down. So like I have, old data storages was still have like ROMs and all that kind of stuff on them. Um, but a more majority of the time I don't even really play them because they're unstable and very few of them will actually work properly if you ain't got the right stuff on your computer or if you ain't got a good enough computer to run them. Now, I do understand why Nintendo is cracking down on all this stuff, and yes, they should, because for one, people shouldn't be pirating, and for two, uh, if they just released, things on their store that we used to play like, 20, 30 years ago, people would be probably more obligated to purchase those games. So, yeah, I mean, I would completely agree with him on this situation. Um, because, I mean, can you just imagine if they remade the first Super Mario Brothers, like remade it entirely, like just from scratch, and they re-released it on a modern console? I'd buy that shit in a heartbeat. Hell, even the old Zelda games, if they put them, on new graphics and a new engine, this, that, and a third, I would buy it. And then, like, I honestly don't like using emulators because they have problems, but I will use them in cases that I have issues, maybe with the actual console, because sometimes there are issues. It's a rare case, but I will use them if the case comes up to where I need to use them. Like for right now, like I'm stream emulators and things and such because I don't have the capture card necessary for me to hook this up to, and I definitely would like to broaden my game library for something this old, but the problem is they don't make cartridges for something this old anymore. So that's probably another reason why people are out there pirating games and this, that, and a third. Like, and I mean, I don't know if you would consider downloading something pirating because you didn't do the actual copying yourself. I don't know how that works. I'm just like just stating what's happened in the past. And, if I downloaded something when I was a kid, it can't be held accountable against me now. At least I don't think it can. But, I mean, honestly, like, I just straight up Nintendo, y'all got to do something because I really don't want to stream emulators anymore myself. I really would love for y'all to start making cartridges for this again. Hell, I mean the 64 era. I mean, a lot of people might disagree, but it had some of the best games in my opinion, and like that they, a lot of the games on this console were put on some of the top charts back when they came out, man. Like all the Mario Party games, things like that, like the games that are getting super freaking uber rare to find. Like there's people out there that don't want to pay for a subscription, to be able to play some of these games on the Nintendo Switch, for example. There's people like me that would like y'all to, remake cartridges or new cartridges. Because, like, I bet you people would buy cartridges if y'all started making games for this again. I can guarantee that. But that's only going to be for like a lot of the people that grew up with that console. So like I don't know how they would, go about targeting, a younger console generation to play these type of games. But I'm pretty sure because Nintendo is really good with marketing and advertising their characters and all their brands and stuff like that. I would say that they would be able to target the new generation of people if they, not necessarily make cartridges for this 30 something year old console, but like if they were to make, let's say, a new Nintendo console that's capable of playing any of their titles, for example, which I'm pretty sure it's possible, and they make them all cartridge based games. Now, they wouldn't have to go through all the extra money and expenses to add the specific cartridge slots to play these, but what they could do is sell accessories that you could hook up to your console so you can plug in the original cartridges to the console. So let's see what else he has to say on
ROMs.
this.
But it's in my opinion that Nintendo is causing irreparable damage to a community that's almost single-handedly kept game preservation efforts alive for decades. And we're going to talk about why I'm genuinely concerned about the future of video game preservation after a quick word from today's sponsor.
Have you ever wished you could play a video game your way?
Well, I don't want ads to pop up, but oh well, it's gonna happen.
Where you can be invincible, unimaginably.
Don't have YouTube Red. I would rather
Today's
not
episode is
subscribe
brought
to
to
it.
you by Delete Me. As someone who works in the video game industry and as a known public figure, maintaining my privacy is extremely important. And sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. Last year, I got an email from what appeared to be a YouTube representative. Now, being tech savvy, I knew that this was a scam.
Yeah.
But what I didn't really understand at the time was how these scammers were able to get my information so easily. Well, it's all thanks to data brokers, and these are large corporations that collect huge amounts of your personal identifiable information and package it all together. And these data brokers will also sell your data to other data brokers, and there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of these sites.
Never give anyone your phone number.
Exactly. Never give out anybody your information
On the internet. Now,
That's
you
how
have
they
the
do
right
it.
to stay private and protect your personal data, and that's where Delete Me
Or
comes
email.
in. It's an online subscription service
Never
that
sign
will
up for
scrub the
anything.
internet for you and remove your personal data from hundreds of these data broker websites. Now, I've been using the service for the past few weeks, and so far I'm really happy with the results. Now,
the hot girl is just baiting you for you to meet her somewhere, and then she's gonna drug you, and they're gonna steal your organs.
Once you've signed up for the service, Delete Me experts will find your personal information online
that's just
and
what
remove it
happens.
from over 750 data brokers. The first report you'll receive after 7 days of using the service. And this is mine. Check this out. This isn't altered in any way. These are all the data broker sites that my information was found on. Now, as you can see going down this list, some of them have removal requests
fat people search,
while others have already been removed. And Delete Me doesn't stop there either. They will regularly remove your personal information at a scheduled basis and keep you informed. Not only this, you can also make custom removal requests as well. Now, I'm a Delete Me customer, and I recommend it to anyone who wants to try it out for themselves. There are even family plans available for those who want to protect the privacy of their entire family. So what are you waiting for? Get 20% off Delete Me US customer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/MVG and use promo code MVG at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/MVG, code MVG at checkout. Nintendo has a well-documented stance against emulation and ROMs. In 1999, when
They have a well-documented stance against their community.
Nintendo 64, the era that I played,
they called emulation illegal. But after it was tried in court and emulators were found to actually be legal, Nintendo changed their strategy. If they can't take down the emulators, then why not go after the sites that host the ROMs? Now you might be thinking to yourself, MVG, Nintendo just took down Yuzu. That's an emulator, so what are you talking about?
Emulators themselves
Nintendo
are not
did
illegal,
shut down Yuzu.
but
However, the DMCA law
the
was
ROM
never tried in court.
sites
Yuzu took an L to
probably
keep
are
emulation
illegal
legal, which I think everyone
because they
have
took an L because
and
they knew that they
posted.
were acting in bad
Like,
faith. They were
I've
monetizing
noticed,
a hack of Tears of the Kingdom,
hold on,
and they were doing it
because I've noticed when I was like downloading them back in the day when I was a kid, like back in the day they were all over the place, and then like now, like you try to go find ROMs, for example, right? You're almost not going to find them. Like a lot of websites have taken them down, especially Nintendo ROMs, especially them, because Nintendo has been cracking down on it, and that's something that Asmongold is right about. Like Nintendo ain't playing around when it comes to this stuff. Um, like people need to really, consider the facts of not messing with ROM sites in 2024, because you know it could be a big issue, because if you're going there on there like in 2024 downloading stuff, I'm pretty sure you're going to get red flagged for all this, that, and the third. So I mean, let's see what else he has to say.
and you could only get it through their Patreon. They knew that if they went to court, they would lose, like, they put a few zeros behind that number. That's why they lost.
Yeah.
Agree was the right thing to do. But let's
They
get
knew
back
what they
to
were
ROMs,
doing.
which is the main topic of this video. I mentioned that Nintendo has every right as the copyright holder to remove what belongs to them. But did you notice that
the original
this kind of brings up something I said before, because if they don't own the copyrights to it anymore, or if that specific game developer went out of business and they no longer are around, then that game is no, like, I'm not going to say that all of them are not copyright protected, but I'm pretty sure there are some games out there that no longer have copyrights protection on them, and they're probably just out there being spread around with nothing being done about it. Now, I hear what he's saying on here. I do. I'm listening, and I want to hear more of what he has to say. So,
of the entire sites, threatening the preservation of ROMs that don't even belong to them. But MVG, what about archive.org, I hear you ask? That's never going to go away. Let's stop and discuss archive.org for a moment. And while I do agree that with the loss of Love ROMs, Vimslayer, and other sites, as long as archive.org exists, then everything will be fine. But it's really not the case. First of all,
yeah, I can definitely agree with that guy there, because even on a website like Internet Archive, I would probably say that at some point, if Nintendo finds out that they're on there, if they don't know already, they probably are going to take action and have them removed off of the website. So unless you got one of them old Z64 adapters laying around that you just plug into the top of your console, you're not going to be making any ROMs. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, and I mean when they take everything down, everything that you have left on your, USBs and all that different stuff, I mean, that's going to be the last of the ROMs that exist, because when they take it all down from the internet entirely, I mean, which probably would never happen, but if they do manage to pull it off, the ROMs will, at least for the Nintendo consoles, will probably no longer be available. So Nintendo does need to, you know, I think there's multiple perspectives on things, and you know, Nintendo should probably remaster these games and try to get the rights to some of these games that have been, out of the picture for so long that people probably no longer have copyrights on, and bring them back into the circle, and then re-release them to the public for people to buy. So that I think, like, if they took a few different approaches at the situation, they could probably take care of the issue to where they could actually get people to start buying them older games again. Because I mean, in my eyes, dollar signs are dollar signs, and if they start making a profit off of people wanting to play older games, then start selling them. That's my thing on that.
First of all, let's talk about why Nintendo hasn't gone after archive.org in the same way as they have with the other sites. Well, it's because archive.org has a DMCA exemption to help with the archival of vintage software. It's vital to make proper archival copies of these artifacts.
You
The
know,
problem with this
that does make a lot of sense now, because the Internet Archive, it technically was designed as a place. It's kind of like the Library of Congress, where they have like books from hundreds of years ago. They are preserving written books that have been there for ages and ages and ages. And this is kind of like what this is. It's kind of like the internet version of the library. You know, it's it's going to be there for future generations, because at some point in time, these consoles probably won't exist anymore. They will probably be all thrown in the trash, or if they even still work in 50 years. I mean, they're probably going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like, now that you kind of put this to perspective based off of what he said, in maybe 50 or 60 years time, people are going to be going back to pirating these games again straight off of this website, because these games are not going to be as readily available as they are in our current time period. So that is definitely going to be expected, unless they can find some way to make you purchase the software off of the Internet Archive website. Now, that would probably be a good motive for them to do, in all honesty.
exemption is it's not forever. Every 3 years, the Copyright Office holds a rule-making proceeding to determine the exemption status. And for example, if 1 year they rule against the DMCA exemption, the site is then exposed to the same takedowns as any other ROM site.
And I want you guys to keep in mind that the reason why this is happening, Nintendo isn't doing this. The government is doing it. It would be great if we had laws that actually gave consumers legitimate rights to products that they purchase. But it's the government that's actually doing this. Nintendo doesn't shut down the website, the government does.
Simple as that. Nothing lasts forever, except for the ridiculous copyright laws when it comes to video games. And if you didn't know, here in the United States, video game copyright lasts for the entire life of the creator,
but I don't know what it
plus
was.
an additional 70 years. And Nintendo themselves have been outspoken opposing the DMCA exemption on archive.org. If and when there is a reversal of the DMCA exemption, Nintendo will be the first company to strike.
Yeah.
Oh, I can guarantee
So what
that.
can we do about this? ROM sites are illegal, but can we dump our own games? Is it even legal to do that? I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding of dumping is that it's perfectly legal to dump your own games as long as you're not circumventing any protection measures as stated by the DMCA. In general, what this means is that anything up to around the 6th generation of game consoles would be perfectly legal to make backups of. Anything beyond that is a grey area.
So,
But for this discussion,
what is
let's just assume
considered?
that all ROMs can be dumped by
So, what is considered 6th generation? Is that like stuff all the way up to Nintendo 64, or I'm kind of confused on that. That's something I would like to actually know, because if it's completely legal to do that up to the sixth generation, for example, then why would the older, I guess the older games wouldn't be targeted technically, would they? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, this is kind of why I'm doing a reaction video to this, in hopes that he might react back to me explaining more on the situation, on how this stuff actually works.
individuals who own originals, and it's perfectly legal to do that. So, if it's okay to download and use an emulator and dump your own games, then what's the problem? Preservation lives on. After all, I'm making a legal backup of my games. The problem is, have you ever tried to dump a NES, Super NES, Genesis, or old game cartridge? It's not an easy thing to do. You need some type of dumping hardware like this thing here.
I've never even seen this
Is the
before.
Retro 2. It can dump SNES and Genesis ROMs, and I even have an adapter for N64 and Game Boy. The problem is, these aren't readily available. They're almost never in stock when you need one. And have you tried dumping NES game cartridges? I've tried a few different dumpers, and all of them are terrible. The best option is to use a dumping tool with the analog NT Mini, which isn't made anymore. And back in the old days, way before
I just don't want to have to do any of this shit. Like, I want them to just provide the games for a reasonable fee that you can buy as a one-time purchase and then play the game whenever you want. Like, why this is like we're jumping through all these hoops. It's like the Olympics for the most simple and obvious thing to happen. Like, I don't get it.
Dumping tools, disc and cartridge copiers were all the rage. Now, I've used disc copiers on the channel before. These devices were also successfully blocked in US courts as illegal. Now, of course, it was still very possible to import them via Hong Kong electronic stores such as Lexang, but you start to see the frustration. Disc-based games like the Dreamcast, OG Xbox and GameCube aren't really much better either. You can use either a specific drive with a hacked firmware, or you can use a hacked console. It shouldn't be this complicated.
I mean, it really isn't hard to hack consoles. Like, within the last couple years, there's been this company called Insignia that reactivated Xbox Live on the original Xbox. And I actually had hacked my console, and I'm about to do a hot swap with the hard drive in there so I can back up all my disc games to the hard drive. But I would say, at least in my opinion, it should be legal to dump ROMs to your own hard drive as long as you have a copy of the game and that you're not sharing it or selling it with somebody. I don't really see that it should be a problem that way. But in the government's eyes, it could be a problem if it isn't. I mean, or if it is, I mean, then people probably shouldn't be doing it. I mean, it happens, but I mean, you haven't really seen Xbox, react to the people that have brought the OG Xbox back online. At least as far as I've seen, I haven't seen them react to that. But like, it's definitely a possible thing, because like my OG Xbox has the Insignia software on it now. So I have literally two dashboards that I could run off of that console, and the Insignia dashboard and then the OG Xbox dashboard. So if I wanted to legitly play games through the OG dashboard, I could. That's how I set up the hard drive, so I could dual boot the dashboards anytime I want to switch between both of them. So yeah, let's see what else this video has to say about that.
backups of your own games, and yet it is. Why
It
not
used
just
to not be like this, by the way. Like Red Alert 1, you could just copy 1-to-1. There was like no restriction or no problem at all.
Now,
Don't ask me how I know.
when it comes to the Nintendo Wii, for example, now I remember that a buddy of mine back like when I was probably about, I don't know, when the Wii come out, probably like 2006, right? I don't know, something like that, maybe a little later. But the thing is with that is the Wii instantly got basically they instantly had a hacking USB stick that you could literally get, right? My buddy had this stick that all you would have to do is plug it in your console, and he was able to just go to GameStop, put the disc in, eject it after it was done doing whatever it was doing, done reading the disc, I would assume. Then the game would automatically be stored to that flash stick. I guess on the console storage. I don't know how that worked. Maybe with through like a memory card or something he had in the console. I didn't like thoroughly look at the console when he was doing all that, but he had like hundreds of Wii games on there, and it was crazy. Um, I don't even remember what the device was called, but it was some kind of USB stick that you would plug in, and then you would put your disc in, and then it would basically just dump all the data back to the console, and then he would take and return all the disc games back to GameStop and get his money back. Now, I could see that being a problem because like that specific device, that's definitely caused Nintendo to lose their money because if somebody's like still doing that in 2024, for example, with a a dump stick or whatever to dump disc straight to this stick, then I mean, yeah, I can definitely see why Nintendo is getting pretty cranky about this stuff because even in the last 15 years, I mean, they have been coming up with new methods every time to do this kind of stuff to video games. And yeah, I would say as time goes on that this kind of stuff will probably will continue, even on into the future with modern consoles because I'm pretty sure that even by now that the PS5 and the new Xbox probably already has an emulator program for it. I mean, I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure they do. I have the physical console, so I have no need to emulate PS5. Um, Now with the Nintendo thing, the only reason that I emulate it is because I try to do streams because I don't have a capture card right now for the physical console. So as soon as I get one of those, emulation is done in the trash can. I'll probably won't mess with that no more because honestly, emulation, I mean, in my opinion, is the worst way to play the game. I would rather play on the actual console once again. And I haven't really showed this off, but this is the Jungle Green console that I had, when I was a kid, and it's in decent, if not perfect shape, brand new shape, whatever. So let's see what the rest of the video's got to say, because I want to
Everything up to
react more.
Nintendo. After all, they did successfully launch the Virtual Console on the Wii, Wii U, and recently the NSO service on the Nintendo Switch. Not only this, they have a very long history of providing backward compatibility options for hardware going as far back as the Game Boy Color. Nintendo can't be trusted.
Now,
Virtual Console on the Wii was a very good.
I am sorry that I have to stop this so many times, but I actually saw a video about this guy that figured out how to get Game Boy games to run on one of those like old TI Texas Instrument calculators. He actually like got Game Boy games to run on that. I was like insanely shocked by that. Like how does that even happen? Like how do you manage to upload a Game Boy ROM to a Texas Instrument calculator and play Game Boy games in school, for example, on your calculator? Like how is that even possible? Like People go far and beyond to play these games. It's just ridiculous, man. They will do anything they can to play games they can't get their hands on anymore. I mean, can you say you really blame people for doing so? I mean, I can't blame people because, I mean, who is sitting there trying to spend thousands of dollars for a game that you can't find anymore, or even hundreds of dollars? I mean, like, and then even when you go look for it online, and if you do find it online, it's gonna be, because not everybody's gonna have that budget to go buy something they used to play in their childhood. So, like, my recommendation is if you're gonna plan on doing any kind of emulation type stuff, I would say, you know, do it at your own discretion, but I'm not telling you to do it. This is like, you know, this is something that you would take the risk of doing yourself and, face the consequences on your own. So, if that's something that you do, then, I mean, all for it. I mean, that's you. But I mean, let's see what they're about to say about these right here. I mean, because like this right here, I was literally playing this one down here last night on the emulator because I mean I do have the physical copy of it, but as I said
service they
before,
provide.
um, I don't have my stream capture card yet. I would honestly, any donations towards that would help me out because I don't want to use this piece of crap computer anymore. Because I'll be honest, the reason why I'm even streaming off of this thing right now is because I have it hooked into my TV so I can view the screen. That's how bad this computer is. Like the screen is all busted to hell. So I'm like literally streaming this stuff off of an ancient laptop that's probably considered ancient to today's standards. But I mean, to me, a computer that's like at least 5 years old is kind of ancient because all the, usually especially in standard computers like this, the CPUs and the graphics cards and all that different stuff and all that is going to be outdated as fuck. And it's not going to run shit like you would like it to anyway. So, my recommendation for anybody that does want to go out there and do emulator stuff, honestly, I would say not to do it for the simple fact that you can honestly catch some good deals on retro games if you just take a look around on like Facebook Marketplace and even at your little local like thrift shops, yard sales, vice versa. I mean, hell, you might find somebody selling a whole bundle of shit for like less than $100. And who knows, you could find some of the rarest games in that stack, you know. But that also brings to mind, if you don't want to go around looking for stuff, this is where Nintendo needs to step in and start publishing games that they made 25 to 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. That like there's some games from even 10 years ago that are hard as shit to find. Like that's how bad it is, and like they wonder why people are using ROMs because it's mainly for the fact that people can't either afford the thing, or they're having a hard time finding it, or the game is just not readily available for them to get. So,
This is
When it
Super
was all
Mario for
said and
Game Boy, I
done,
think.
there was a total of 427 Virtual Console titles available on the service in North America. And in 2019, the Wii U online service was shut down.
Yeah.
So let's move over to the Wii U. Many games had to be ported to the Wii U Virtual Console, and there's a total of 318 titles available in North America. It's a pretty significant reduction. And of course, as we know,
I also think the pricing is way too high. Like asking that much money for like an old game like that, it's just not congruent with what.
Now, I do agree with you there, Asmongold, because Nintendo, they are a bit pricey, but I do say this for a lot of reasons. The reason why is their games are really pricey is because the majority of their games are on cartridge, and cartridges cost more money to make. Now, with retro games, they're gonna still be expensive even if they remade them, because if they're gonna put them on a cartridge, it takes a lot of money for them to make cartridges versus disc. That's why a lot of game companies are using disc these days, because they're cheaper to make, um, but they're less durable. That's the downside about using disc. And disc are more subjected to disc rot. And if y'all know what disc rot is, I could probably pull up a picture, but I mean, let me see if I can find a picture real quick, because if I can, like, for example, I hope that's spelled right, but let's see. Let's see if we can find images of disc rot. This is like what they would be looking like. This is what happens to disc. Or that's not a disc, but yeah, here we go. So look, over years and years and years, this stuff can happen to your disc. Especially if you got children that sit there and leave them out in the sunlight, this, that, and the third, sit there and let them get scuffed up. I mean, that, like, even a disc like this that's been sitting inside of a case has been exposed to disc rot. You can kind of see the rings around the edge of the disc there. So like that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like disc rot. Like even if the reflectant stuff starts peeling off where the data is stored, all that bit of data is gone. And like I have seen even discs look like this. Like, and if they look like this, they're not even gonna work. Like, I mean, y'all see for yourselves. Like, see, the problem with disc is, like, a disc, you can't repair them like you can a cartridge. Like, a cartridge can be rusty as hell. I've watched people go through and clean cartridges up, like from rusty as hell to almost looking brand new, and then the game works. That's what where Nintendo is doing the right thing, because Nintendo was smart and they stayed with cartridge. There's a whole lot of reasons why I don't even buy disc games for my PlayStation, because of disc rot. In maybe 10, 20 years, they're going to start probably seeing disc rot, especially if they're exposed to conditions that, they're not supposed to be in.
What the industry and the customer expectations are, it's just too much money.
The Wii U store was also closed. But of course, now we come to the Nintendo Switch Online service, which is the service-based Netflix-style model Nintendo has always wanted to provide. And the smart money suggests that Nintendo will transfer...
Now, I'm actually glad that Nintendo did this, but at the same time, on Nintendo Switch, these are still under a subscription. So I don't even think that they have available to you to actually go and purchase these. Now, if they do, that'd be cool. I mean, I haven't owned a Switch in about 2 or 3 years, so I don't know what's like going on with the Nintendo stores right now as of right now. But I would say that, you know, everything they've got on there will probably be, you know, good to play, just fine. But that, like, there's going to be a lot of titles that are not going to make it to Nintendo, especially since like companies like Rareware, um I think is owned by Microsoft, if I'm right. I believe they're owned by Microsoft right now. Um, hey Jessica, what's up? I'm just kind of doing a review video on Asmongold right now, on this ROM topic.
Over the NSO with your
I had so many
Nintendo
of
account
these.
to future Nintendo hardware, including the Switch 2. This, of course, is a good move. As of the making of this video, there's only a paltry 275 titles available on the NSO service, and we only get a very small drip feed of new games every single month. I remember back in the days of the Wii Virtual Console.
Now, see, like on the Nintendo Switch, there's a whole lot of reasons why they ain't got all of the Nintendo 64 games. Oh, I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. How are you? Let me continue. But pretty much like as far as like the Nintendo stuff they've added, like there's a reason why they can't add all of them because a lot of the game companies that made all of those old game cartridges were, I would say that they either don't have the copyrights to those games anymore, or the copyrights have not been standing for probably the past 20 years. Some games probably are completely forgotten about and abandoned, and companies technically don't own them anymore, so they're just kind of out there. So there's some things that probably won't even have copyrights that will ever make it to the store. So basically, I'm doing a review of Asmongold's video on here on YouTube. Um, Basically, I'm kind of reacting to it to give my input on the ROM scene, like for like the game emulation scene, like for PC and all that stuff. So like he's a pretty cool dude. He posts like all kinds of stuff. But like this is what really caught my eye today. That's why I wanted to make a video on it and kind of react to it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I do stream usually every day. I wouldn't say I meet my schedule all the time, but like today, this wasn't even the intended stream for today. Like I was originally going to stream Fortnite, but I kind of got into watching some Asmongold TV today, and then I saw this pop up in my YouTube feed, and I figured I'd do a reaction video to it live so I could give my input on it. And I mean, a majority of what he's saying so far, I do agree with, if not all of it, because I mean, Nintendo's got to like crack down on these ROMs, especially, and they should re-release a lot of these games so people will stop pirating games and stuff like that. For example. And like this is why like Nintendo is not understanding why people are doing this stuff because like they don't want to hear the perspective of people from the other side. Now like this is kind of like uh I mean it's kind of a mixed situation. It's because there's like laws that state that you can legally like dump like copies of the game to the internet, but you can't physically go and download them legally and stuff like that. Overlay. What are you referring to? I'm kind of new to using the OBS Studio, so I don't know what that is. You mean like a border around like my screen? What's up, Slime Pup? How you doing?
We were getting games every single week.
By the way, little aside, in the year 1990, this game was Elden Ring. I don't
can I react to something? Oh, well, yeah, I was already doing that through the video. Basically, I've already kind of covered this whole portion already and put out, what I had to say about it. We still have about that much more to go. Face cam border and screen border. Um, I mean, I could set all that up maybe on my next stream. I was just kind of haphazardly setting this one up to just do a reaction video, honestly. But yeah, for sure, I could probably work on uh putting something on my next stream for sure. I mean, I do have like something for like my retro setup if you would like to see that, but um it probably ain't gonna show up well. I don't know if y'all guys can see that, but that is something I use for my retro game streams there. Yeah, like this type of stuff, like I would use this for like Nintendo 64 stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue my reaction to Asmongold's stuff here because I do want to hear what he's got to say on the topic
I don't
of
think I can overstate how big
the topic of Nintendo emulation and ROMs and stuff like that. And if you have a uh if you have the ability to post to your story, maybe I could check it out.
this game was and how much of like a crazy, like, fucking paradigm shift this game was. This was nuts.
The Nintendo
It
Switch
was a great
has
game.
sold over 155 million units, but Nintendo is all but doing the absolute minimum
yeah.
to offer retro
Remember the
games
movie
to
The
their
Wizard?
customers. The
Remember
number of old classic games Nintendo is providing on their hardware services is shrinking with every single generation. And you've probably noticed that every single month people are asking for games like Chrono Trigger or Secret of Evermore on the service. How many years will people need to wait before they show up?
I don't know if I have my Discord profile linked in my profile or not, but you should be able to. If it's not on there, just give me until after I finish with the video, and I can get with you then on the Discord thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. There's no guarantee that anything will ever appear on the NSO. As someone who does work on commercial emulation projects, I can tell you categorically that many publishers see value in partnering with companies like Limited Run or Digital Eclipse to help bring back their back catalog. The reality is, Nintendo
Yeah,
Switch
it just adds value to the customer. It's not even a question.
Online is just
Exactly.
another revenue stream for Nintendo's bottom line. The emulation quality,
Okay,
while
Jessica,
decent
I'll
enough,
look that
doesn't
up here
hold
in
a
a little
candle
while.
to community-developed efforts that run on their own hardware. The emulators that the homebrew community built on the Wii, Wii U, 3DS, and the Nintendo Switch are far superior to anything that Nintendo has ever provided.
Well, we got an ad. I don't have YouTube Red, guys. I'm sorry.
Again, service issue. Why is that it should not be like that. There's no reason it should be like this.
The community who downloads ROMs shouldn't all be labeled as filthy pirates who deserve
You know,
what's
I never
coming to
played
them.
Super Metroid.
It's the resellers who attempt to profit from them that really should be targeted. If Nintendo really cared about ROMs, they'd be taking down every single seller on Amazon who's selling knockoff handhelds with 10,000.
Now that actually is a good point that he's making, because if Nintendo really wanted to do something about it, they would be targeting the people that are, well, for one, putting out these emulator consoles out on the internet, and for two, they probably would start going after more of the ROM dump websites because that's something they're already doing. Now, as like Asmongold said earlier, like pretty much like you don't want to rely on using ROMs for gaming because, you know, for one, if you're going to go and download them, especially in this time period, you're probably going to get in trouble. I'm just going to say that because like the government is cracking down on them, as he said. And I mean they're not playing around with this stuff. I mean Nintendo and the government, they're not playing around. Like they're taking care of things and getting stuff done. So like if you like downloaded all this stuff, you know, I guess pre, you know, laws or before the laws were made, I guess it wouldn't apply to that, but I'm not really too sure on how that works. I mean, I guess we'll see.
1,000 games on them. I can literally buy one right now and get it delivered tomorrow. And if it wasn't for ROMs, fan translations would not exist. And this is something that people pour their hearts and souls into to provide localization.
Honestly, that's something else he's right about, because if ROMs didn't exist, he is right about that. I do give him that, because fan made versions or translated versions of those games would not be made, and that's understandable. Now, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why certain games weren't released in certain countries, is because they just weren't either popular or they didn't meet the standards of what that country required for that game to be released. You know, or the fact that I guess maybe the copyright stuff, maybe it might have something else to do with it. Maybe they didn't get the proper copyrights to place their stuff in other countries and things like that. So
Efforts to games that were never released in that particular country. But it doesn't even stop there. Things like full color translations, widescreen mods.
Can you guys imagine how much bigger Nintendo would be here in America if they actually had a guy that really understood the like Western culture? Dude, it would be bigger than like Xbox and PlayStation put together.
Well, at one point in time, Nintendo was one of the biggest sellers in North America. As of current times, I would probably say they're not so much. But at one point in time, they were the top game seller in North America. I mean, they probably could have some kind of representative here in like modern times to kind of meet with, I guess, like the Western world, to kind of give more of a perspective of how they want things done, you know, for their games and things like that. So yeah, I mean, that keeps popping up.
Times like 5. I don't know, man. Reggie? I mean, I liked Reggie. I thought Reggie was cool, but like, I don't really know what he did.
Built out of completely new games, updating and adding quality of life features, even building demakes of games.
It's good PR, yeah.
Anytime a remaster is announced, people ask what quality of life features.
Yeah, this is amazing. The quality on this is great.
If ROMs didn't exist, that would be a big fat zero.
Is that a
and
ROM?
I'll fill you in on a secret. Commercial retro game collections I've been involved with, we frequently work with ROM hacking experts in the community. Everyone does who works on retro collections. Experts in reverse engineering, ROM hacking, and localization efforts are essential to bringing back old games to modern times.
Yep.
The FPGA community just saw the release of the N64 Mr. Core, an incredible piece of work that will surely benefit N64 hardware preservation, but it still requires ROMs to play. It's easy to say that the internet is vast and ROMs will never be eradicated, but the reality is, every high-profile ROM site that's shut down, it's a blow to preservation. We can't trust Nintendo.
Now, I would say I completely agree with him there, but here's the thing about that is if they decide to block all websites like that in North America, that means that people are still not going to be able to download those ROMs. So the only way that they would be able to preserve that history literally would be putting them on that Internet Archive website, because like that's literally like the Library of Congress on the internet. That's pretty much what it is.
Nintendo or the ESA to be in charge of preservation efforts. They've failed in doing so time and time again. Their motives aren't to preserve, rather to control. They make it clear.
He makes a good point there. He makes a really good point. Yeah, they're not trying to preserve the games. They're just trying to control what people are doing. Absolutely.
They will go after any ROM site that gets in their crosshairs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Vim's Lair, this was because of moronic TikTokers who were playing Pokemon on their iPhones via the Delta emulator, thinking that it was cool, which clearly got the attention of the ESA. If Nintendo was serious about their history, they'd provide their entire library of ROMs on a service.
Yep.
This could be either a rental or a purchase.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I will say that 1,000 times more. But that right there, like if they just did that, they wouldn't be fighting the piracy and all that stuff. They would be more or less reselling these games on some kind of library that they would have posted on one of their platforms. Like, and I mean, in my thing is, like I said, you know, they shouldn't make people pay for a subscription for it. They should just let people go in there and buy the games individually to what they want to play. Not everybody is going to want to pay for that subscription. Vice versa, this, that, and the third. Now, a lot of things like that, like there's even programs out there called Batacera, which they're basically an emulation operating system that's like kind of based off of the Linux software. And if you have a good enough computer to run that software, you could literally build yourself a Batacera console or arcade cabinet and then run anything, probably from Commodore 64 all the way up to, like, I don't know, PS3 era, maybe PS4. I mean, I'm not sure like what Batacera currently supports as of right now, but Batacera seems to be the next game changer as far as emulation consoles go, because they're not going to be allowed to physically sell the emulation console itself on the internet because of a lot of reasons. But if you go and, build your own stuff, like your own computer, your all that stuff, and then install the OS on there, I mean, that's all on you if you do that. But as far as getting the ROMs and the games, that's where it's going to be tricky, because if you ain't got a more legal way to dump them to your console, then you would have to sit there and go on the internet, like in illegal websites, as he was explaining earlier, to download all of this stuff. And like that's not what you want to do, especially in this time period, because you can get in some serious trouble doing it. And that's if you get caught doing it, which I'm pretty sure they know what you're doing already, because like they monitor everything you do anyways. So, I mean, we live in the age of technology. We probably are monitored. So, I mean, I'm not going to doubt that for one bit, but that's just how it goes.
Purchase and run on any legal emulator on your PC. I know it sounds
Or it could, imagine this, run on the fucking Switch.
Exactly. I had said that earlier. I said that earlier.
Crazy, but think about it. If Nintendo set up their own Vim's Lair, which had checks and balances, people would buy those ROMs.
How are they not doing?
Exactly.
How are they not doing this?
Sites like Vim's Lair,
I don't get it.
fan translations,
I don't get it either. I don't get it either.
These talented people are what the industry needs.
It's just like none of this makes any sense to me.
Many ROM hackers and modders got their start in the industry from their hobbyist work, and it would be a shame to see all that disappear. But these are just one man's thoughts and opinions.
I don't
and
understand
I do know
it
that
at
this
all.
topic is polarizing for many of you. So if you did make it to the end of this episode, I do thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I understand that a lot of people don't like emulation and ROMs, and a lot of people obviously do. But I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. But we are going to leave it here for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up.
I would say I only like them to a certain extent when they work right. But the whole reason that I want to go and get a capture card is for the sole purpose of me. I'm going to show it again so you guys can see it. I want to stream directly off of the Nintendo 64 console. This little gem right here. I want to stream off of that. I would rather not use emulation. But for right now, until I get a capture card, that's literally my only solution is using Project 64 and programs similar to that, which I mean, in my opinion, I've had worse luck with using programs like Muppin 64 or Muppin Plus 64, things like that. So, I mean, if you're going to do emulation, do it under your own discretion. But I would say if you're going to use an emulator program, I would say Project 64 is probably one of the better ones. But like I said, I'm not telling anybody to go and use them because, like I said, you use under your own risk. You use all of that stuff under your own risk.
And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
What a good fucking video.
Definitely.
It's
definitely.
crazy how, like, everybody knows what Nintendo has to do except for Nintendo. Like, everybody on the internet is collectively...
I feel
Yeah,
that. I feel that, bro.
Everybody understands this except them. It's insane. There's the video, by the way. Like, this guy, he makes a lot of really good retro gaming videos. I've watched them. I probably watched like 20 of his videos. Ryan, maybe not that many, but like I've watched a lot of them. I agree with everything he's saying. I think Nintendo's erasing, and the thing is, they're erasing their own history. It's like you have to keep.
Honestly, to Asmongold, I probably got to go follow this guy myself because this dude, he knows what he's talking about. And I'm still trying to learn more about the ROM scene, even though I started as a kid. I don't really know a whole lot about how things are in 2024 with, dealing with ROMs and things such like that. So, I mean, emulation is going to be only legal to a certain point. It's like when it starts involving copyright stuff, that's like when, companies like that are going to start stepping in and cracking down. So,
Keep in mind that everybody who's like ROMing your game and everything, they're doing that because they love your game. They want to play your game. And like I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but like I want to support Nintendo. I want to be a Nintendo simp. But they make it so hard. Why are you doing this? I don't get it. Yeah, like just let me buy the game. Let me just play the game. Like
exactly.
why can't you just have an adapter that you can plug into a you can plug into a PC. It's a USB adapter and you can just plug every controller into it. Nintendo could sell that.
Yeah, I mean, they
Guaranteed
they
could make this.
they
Why aren't
kinda
they
have
doing it?
they kinda have something like that, Asmon. Now, they it's not made by Nintendo per se, but like for the Nintendo 64 programs, they actually have the USB to controller port adapter with the two controller ports on one adapter, or even I think they even sell one with four. You can actually sit there and plug all of your OEM remotes straight in to that port. It's literally going to plug straight into that.
I don't understand. None of this makes sense. Nintendo has more nostalgia than like anything,
Exactly.
and
I
you're just
agree.
not seeing it happen. It's so disappointing.
See,
Yeah, give the video a like. Maybe one day they'll.
see, Nintendo at one point, like I said, was at the top of the game. They were at the top of the game. They were the top sellers at one point in time. I would say these days they're not. But I mean, not unless I pull up a statistics chart seeing what the top game console company is as of 2024. Like I don't really know as of right now. But I'm pretty sure if I go ahead and look it up real quick on my phone, I will let you guys know what it actually is because what yeah, see like what console company is the top seller right now? 2024, not 23. Okay, so as of February, according to Google now, as of February 2024, it had sold over 158 million units worldwide. The latest PlayStation 5 console has sold around 54.7 million units as of the most recent measured period. Nintendo Switch is the only current generation console among the five best-selling consoles of all time. Like, I guess they're like, are they talking about like just Nintendo Switch here? When they're talking about they have sold 137.7 million units? Or are they talking about Nintendo as an entirety? Are they talking about from when they first started? Because if that's the case, then that's not really the number I was looking for. Now, if that's based off of 2024 sales, that's fucking insane. And like this is based off of a website called statlista.com. Um like I could literally I don't know if it'll show up too well, but that is the website. I don't think y'all can see it, but I could probably look it up real quick. Let's see. Top console uh sales as of 2024. And I didn't type that in right. And I don't type fast worth of crap anyway. So let's see what Yahoo has to say. Or I guess I should type in game consoles, right? I guess that ain't gonna really give me an accurate thing here, but based on experts' reviews, like let me see because yeah, like that website. I want to show y'all the website I was just looking at because it says it ps forward slash uh www dot star or was it star or Starlista or something like that .com uh forward slash or no forward slashes. So like this is the website that it says that it was on, but I guess I should probably copy and paste that in the search bar because I'm not searching it in the right spot. Let's go to Statista.com and let's see what it actually says. Site cannot be reached. That doesn't make sense. Well, anyways, yeah. I mean, pretty much what I read off is basically the situation with that. And and if that's even accurate information, that's really insane. Like even like in 2005, like Sony managed to sell 84 point or 87.4 million units, and Microsoft sold 84 million. So like even Sony was above Xbox back then, according to what I'm reading here on Google. Now,
They'll come to their senses. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I hope that it will. Not to mention a second life given to games through ROMs. Yeah, exactly. The only thing that makes sense is that they want us to buy the new console and games, which are more expensive. Yeah, but people are going to do that too. Like, it's not like, dude, it's not like if we buy the old games, we're not going to buy the new ones. We're going to buy both of them. Like, what do you mean?
exactly.
That's the way it's always been.
It's been like that for over.
It's just silly, man. They hold decent games hostage. Well, they're holding their own stuff hostage. They're hurting themselves. Pokemon happen for Pokemon. I'm sure there's licensing issues with some of them, but that's certainly not the obligation, or that's certainly not the norm. They have tons of retro games on the Switch, but they're just overpriced. Yeah, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, what's the purpose in this? Nintendo hurt itself in its confusion. That's a fucking fact, man. Yeah. I gotta go do the podcast and do some other stuff. As I said, today was going to be a shorter stream today. So tomorrow I'm going to be on. We might look at some of this stuff tomorrow for Phase 4 of Season of Discovery.
Well, guys, I think that I got to give that video a like because yeah, that's definitely a good topic to discuss there. And Asmongold, I would like to see more thoughts on this topic from you on this whole situation, and see like what you have more to say about the ROM scene and things like that. So um I do appreciate everyone that has watched the live stream today. I'm probably going to go ahead and end the stream, and I will see y'all next time. Thank you for watching, and this is DumbGhoul TTV. Peace out, everyone.